that the power they received from being bound to Christ in their endowments, persons who have been endowed in a temple are responsible to wear a temple garment, an article of clothing not visible because it is worn beneath outer clothing. It reminds endowed members of the sacred covenants they have made and the blessings they have been promised in the holy temple. To achieve those holy purposes, we are instructed to wear temple garments continuously, with the only exceptions being those obviously necessary. Because covenants do not take a day off, to remove one's garments can be understood as a disclaimer of the covenant responsibilities and blessings to which they relate. In contrast, persons who wear their garments faithfully and keep their temple covenants continually affirm their role as disciples of the Lord Jesus Christ. Distinctive clothing or name tags are intended to signify that the wearer is under covenant and therefore has a duty to teach and serve and should be supported in that service. A related purpose is to remind the wearers of their covenant responsibilities. There's no magic in their distinctive clothing or symbols, only a needed reminder of the special responsibilities the wearers have assumed.
Travis Wayne Goodsall. Evil's incompetence really annoys me. They make threats and then they don't carry them out. And yet, actual prophets, their predictions of the future are very accurate, very amazing. Even Joseph Smith. Mormons don't see it, Mormons don't believe it, Mormons don't care. They have no idea what they're missing. On the Oaks review video, Adventures Northwest, and if this is a business, what the hell are you doing trolling on YouTube? He says, your titles mean nothing to the Lord. And he's speaking of Jesus, not the Jewish Christ. And so, first Sunday session review, April 2024, LDS Church General Conference. Bound to Jesus, I think. That's Oakes's talk. It was a harmless title because the other titles weren't picking up steam. I got slammed for the first time ever for conference. YouTube previously tried to shut me down prior to, as they even did for this one. But for this conference, they rigged their algorithms to hide me from Mormons. And it worked. And yet, some got through and were abusive. They don't care to obey the leaders of the church who tell them not to do this. This is what's disturbing. That Mormons believe Joseph Smith in the Book of Mormon, even though Christian, and they believe the prophets, but they don't follow any of them. Who do they follow? Well, who tells you to be abusive and try to take away the agency of others? Exactly. And so Adventures Northwest is merely telling me that he's chosen to worship Lucifer, which is exactly what Oaks told you this church is. And so in order to defend Oaks, even though I was telling you exactly what he said. I've now got the video. I can now break it apart and do clips from it. He's nonetheless trying to defend Oakes for holding him in bondage. He's a slave and an hostage to the church. That's why he said we wear the underwear or we're an apostate if we take it off. We are bound to Jesus. No longer are we yoked to Jesus. Oakes says we're now bound to Jesus. Through covenants. Dear God. And he says that I'm perhaps the most uninspired individual he has ever heard, full of self-righteousness, arrogance, anger, and of course misleading. Did he not watch conference? Again, defending the church, and they have no clue what it is they're defending. He can't defend the talk. He's attacking my nature and character, which is not proving that Oakes was wrong. How is it misleading? Because I'm arrogant, self-righteous, and angry? And uninspired? Those are opinion words. They are not truth. Truth is, did Oakes say that our underwear binds us to Jesus, reminding us of the covenant? Yes, that's exactly what he said. He did not argue that. This reveals you as stupid, literally illiterate. No wonder he doesn't recognize inspiration. And so, I don't understand why Mormons who claim that the Book of Mormon is so true can't put the puzzle together. 1 Nephi, chapter 13, verse 4, And it came to pass that I saw among the nations of the Gentiles the formation of a great church. And the angel said unto me, Behold, the formation of a church, which is most abominable above all other churches, which slayeth the saints of God. Is it the Catholic saints? Constantine created Christianity. After that, they began to create saints who are superhuman beings of legend now. No longer were they real people, they're now supernatural in their history origin. St. Patrick, for example, he never chased snakes out of Ireland. They were already gone, at least 300 years previously. Are those the saints, Mormons? A church that slays their own membership, that tortureth them, and, wait for it, bindeth them down, and, wait for it, yoketh them with a yoke of iron to Jesus through your underwear, and bringeth them down into captivity. Now, our Oakes said, you have to give up your agency to bind yourself to Jesus with your underwear. Every Mormon knows this is Lucifer's doctrine. This is Lucifer's plan. And Oakes said it. And so, again, I've been going over these videos for years, begging Mormons, listen, there's a warning, you're in danger, this church is murdering you, they're holding you hostage. I was just pointing out tithing, but yeah, he... There was the slip of the tongue of pay tithing in that conference. And so, verse 17 of section 103, for ye are the children of Israel and the seed of Abraham, and ye must needs be led out of bondage. And you refuse to go. I will not force you, Mormons. They're holding you hostage. They're extorting your money. They're threatening to murder you, if not already murdering your friends and family members. And I'm the bad guy. I'm the one who's wrong. I'm trying to take away your agency. I don't get it, Mormons. YouTube destroyed me. So, the eclipse is pretty much over now. I was able to see the darkening of the sky, knowing that it wasn't a cloud. And still no Jesus coming in the clouds of glory. You don't get it. The Christian Jesus failed to show. The Islamic Jesus failed to show. The Jesus of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints failed to show. But the Jewish Christ, and that of Joseph Smith, who is also a Jewish prophesied Christ, we've shown, and you don't know us. You don't understand the learning of the Jews. My number one video still and will always be, because I was really hoping to pick up the number of views to escalate for conference and then get another 40,000 to match the first year's video. Nope, not gonna happen. YouTube denied. Just cyber terrorism. Silencing my voice. Maliciously silencing my voice. Cyber terrorism. YouTube is the enemy. Ordered by the church. But all the interpretation of the Jews' prophecies, all their scriptures of the whole Bible, Joseph Smith's prophecies in the learning of the Jews, the Book of Mormon's prophecies in the learning of the Jews, have all but the final day has happened. The prophecies make it very clear, all will be fulfilled. Unbelievable. The one thing left, and they can't do it, because evil can't do it? God. So frustrating. You know, the fall of the great and abominable church is supposed to have happened. The destruction of America was supposed to have happened and thus triggered world wars. That the only place on earth that was supposed to be safe from the war was Zion, and Zion isn't built. The enemy failed in 2020. I was going to be forced to put my foot on the mount in 2020. But the evil failed. And so it ended up being 2022 when I put my foot on the mount. And 2024 for the overthrow of the government. I've gone over all the documents, all the financial receipts, all the scriptures. Just because you don't know what the learning of the Jews is, does not make Jesus true, and therefore I'm wrong. You're not connecting the pieces of the puzzle together of history. You're denying history and pulling what's called an anachronism, where you take Constantine's Christian creed, you just replace Trinity with non-Trinitarian as Mormon. Islam replaces Trinitarian with Muslim Trinitarian. But he's not really Trinitarian, only Allah is. But Jesus is a teacher, and he'll come back resurrected and do the same stuff, but it's different. But everything else of Constantine, you agree with. Replacing the Jews. The scriptures were written prior to Constantine by at least 100 years. And what makes you think that the interpretation of Christianity is true? You can't do that. It's what's called false prophet. Because your predictions of Jesus will not come to pass because you've misinterpreted the Jewish scriptures with your Christianity. And Mormons have to live in denial just like Christians live in denial. Because their church has to be true. And you don't stop and think, you're getting conned. They're stealing your money. And I'm suffering because of it. Because of the delays, the church has more opportunities to attack me. I just saw a little pop-up saying I just got attacked. Dear God, Mormons. Dear God. Because you read the Book of Mormon and you go, wow, literal history, it's so true. I feel it. That's all you have. Feeling. You don't do the archaeological work. You let other people claim they did. We found gold plates in Saudi Arabia! And you have no clue that they're forgeries. Just did that video because I got pressured to do it. I already told you guys in a video, I don't need to look up this video from whatever Book of Joseph. I know they don't know how to translate the Book of Joseph, because I did the decipherment. I did the work. I did the research. I did the study. I produced the results. No feelings involved except after I produce the results and then I do my happy dance. No, you're not going to see my happy dance. Feelings are a response. They're never a cause. And the prophets have fooled you. Christians have fooled you. Because you can never produce the results of somebody who's not real. And so the leaders of Christianity had to figure out, how do we keep our people in bondage to us? Aside from the Spanish Inquisition, accusing women of witchcraft. They had to keep the scriptures out of people's hands. They had to keep you dumb and uneducated. They have to twist definitions, create new definitions with the new created word, homuzion. And you just don't make the connection that Joseph Smith is also just like me. Mormons, Christianity is abominable. Stay away. Don't worship the false god Jesus. And you don't see it, because the prophets say it's the church of Jesus Christ. And Jesus appeared to Joseph. And you never bothered to read. There is no Jesus. You didn't bother to go to the Joseph Smith papers, because the prophets don't. And oops, it was Willard Richards who inserted Joseph Smith, or Jesus Christ. I was told as a kid, when asking why were some scriptures of Joseph not put in the Doctrine and Covenants. And you know what the adults told me? Well, the Quorum of the 12 didn't approve of them. What? But the scriptures say nobody can get commandments and revelations except for Joseph. How is Joseph being corrected by the 12 who have no authority? Oh, God. You just don't see it. Anybody going against the Book of Mormon, you now should be able to say you're false. Section 119 goes against the Book of Mormon. It's false. Oh no, but it's by Joseph. Did you go to the Joseph Smith papers? It's not by Joseph. It's a forged document. So no duh, it goes against the Book of Mormon. Section 115 goes against Joseph. Yeah, forged document. Same date of supposedly when it was written by Joseph. You're now starting to catch on to patterns. That's what investigators do for a crime scene. They look for patterns. We found some fingerprints. Let's go through our fingerprint file and see if we can come up with a match. We've got camera surveillance. Let's see if we can identify a match. We've got blood at the crime scene. Let's see if we can find a match. We've got a knife. Let's see if we can find a store where it was bought from and trace the money and match. And so, dear God, Mormons, dear God. I did not want this to go into overtime. The church is furious with me still over the lawsuits in 2020. They never told you, and they don't bring it up, or at least Holland doesn't, of when I put him in the hospital when I submitted to the court that Monday morning, which was actually Sunday night, but the court receives it on Monday morning, and the lawyers for the church got it also that same morning when they showed up to work. The inverted pentagram carved in stone evidence. And the Mormon refused to recuse himself as a federal judge because he's Mormon. He had to defend the church at all costs. And so he said that it was an ad hominem argument. Carved in stone evidence is an ad hominem argument, huh? Really? So yeah, the second lawsuit was suing the federal judges for covering up the church's crimes, being compromised to the church. As the magistrate judge had been fired previously and threatened to dismiss my case until I presented the financial receipts. The little girl screamed in horror. Yes, the church is guilty. Oaks just confessed. They have no keys. There is no authority. It's all a fraud. You're in bondage to people who cannot save you because they're holding you hostage. They're not your saviors if they've kidnapped you and are threatening you and holding you hostage and forcing you to read from a script about how you're a sinner and the church is true. Just like a terrorist. Missionaries. You put on the shackles of underwear and you go around the world reading the script. The Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints is the one and only true church on the face of the earth. Joseph Smith saw Jesus. The Book of Mormon is another testament of Jesus. And you have to pay them the ransom money. I can't compete against this deep of a brainwashing. I can't. I can't. And so, yeah, there are a couple of you who are interested in my content videos. Who want me to keep on going. And if we're going into overtime, it's going to piss me off if the day that shall burn as an oven happens next week or in a couple of weeks. Just like with last year for October 7th. I need a vacation, guys. This is all in vain for me. I have sacrificed everything to save you, Mormons, and you're not even listening anymore to at least show me some respect. I cannot get through. Nothing gets through. Dear God. And so my intention was to retire. You know, to finish up the record of the destruction of the Mormons, the latter days and world history. Get that all completed. Paul has been a great help for me obtaining documents. And so I just got all of the other Gospels that are not included in our New Testament. And so I intend to have a full gospel book made up. But if I have to go into overtime to continue to warn Mormons about the dangers of the church that came directly from the prophet's mouth, self-proclaimed prophets, do you not pay attention when they tell you and threaten you that they are prophets, seers, and revelators with all the keys, and you've never bothered to read? Only the president of the church, nobody else. And the president of the church is the key of Moses. It's not Peter. Peter was never the leader of the church. Even when the story says that Jesus is gone now, that's Acts, by the way, Peter was still not the leader of the church. Peter was always a messenger. That's it. He's supposed to preach. He's supposed to preach about Jesus. And no, you're not supposed to put Christianity in there. Christianity hadn't been invented yet. It's the learning of the Jews. But nonetheless, Peter was never the leader. You're going, what do you mean? In Acts, he's the leader. Of course he's the leader. Jesus said, upon this rock I will build my church. His tomb is under the Vatican. Angels and demons are angels and demons. I don't think Da Vinci Code was angels and demons with Peter's tomb, right? What kind of bomb? The non-existent entity bomb. Subparticles, superhuman particles, or whatever. But nonetheless, no, Acts 15. You got to know the cultural practice and tradition of the Roman period time. The last speaker is the leader. And the last speaker in chapter 15 is James, the brother of Jesus. James is Greek for the Hebrew Yachab, the usurper. Jesus is dead and the usurper is in charge. That's the learning of the Jews, not literal history. Peter was never in charge. But you got to know the learning of the Jews. So it's my intention, dear God, because I can't compete against YouTube. I don't have the powers of computer power to override the YouTube bondage they've put me in, the silencing treatment they've given me. I can't compete. There's nothing I can do about it. I am at their mercy. And if they will not let me go, there's nothing I can do. And nothing happened today. I mean, sure, it's only 1:30, but all the enemy had to do was to destroy Christianity and all of its branch-offs, including Islam, was just nuke the Temple Mount. Because the mosque destroyed and the land polluted forever. It was a simple nuke. That's it. And all of a sudden, all of Christianity are going, oh no, Jesus, the temple can no longer be built. That's it. That's all they got to do. That's what Albert Pike was saying they're going to do. They're not doing it. They failed. On the day to do it, they failed. It's 9 hours ahead in Jerusalem. It's now 10:30 at night. They failed. It's the next day. It's the new year for the Jews. At 6 p.m. it was the new year. This is supposed to be the millennium for them. If they understood that their scriptures were in the learning of the Jews. But Constantine tricked them too. And thus their Hebrew Bible is incorrectly translated because they tried to conform it to the Constantine-influenced scriptures. Dead Sea Scrolls removes all of the incorrect translations. It's the original documents. And if you go through and identify the linguistic pattern, completely different stories than what we have in English. So, yeah. The church can't get their kingdom back, guys. I've been doing the videos all these years about all the church's attempts to purge Utah of the undesirable people. Not just me. The road home downtown, Operation Rio Grande, yeah, that was all part of that. To remove the homeless, to lock them up in prison. Yeah. That was their plan. We'll lock them up as criminals. They removed the actual criminals, sort of. They didn't have a trial yet to be found guilty of anything. It's kind of what they do in Utah, is lock you up and force you to confess and plead down so that you then confess to something, and thus you are guilty of what they just arrested you for. You're guilty of something. We'll just hold you hostage until you confess. And so they failed to purge the poor and the homeless. They failed to purge the sick, the fat, the elderly. Failed to purge blacks, LGBTQ, Jews, non-compliant women, apostates. They've poisoned our air, land, and water. They've increased the cost of living so it can't be affordable, and so we've got a housing crisis, we've got an employment crisis, we've got a mental health crisis caused by the mental health professionals. Hildebrandt was the perfect illustration of that. She's the one who caused it, counseling the 8 passengers, Ruby Frank. And so, thus, by causing a mental health crisis, she's right there as a psychologist to say, oh, you can be my client. That's evil. Can you imagine a medical doctor going around hurting people and saying, hey, you're hurt. I'm a medical doctor. Come pay me and I'll make you feel better. He'd lose his license and be barred for life. That's violation of the Hippocratic Oath. But there is no Hippocratic Oath for psychology. But they get doctor-patient confidentiality, so nobody can know what they're doing. And Hildebrandt exposed the whole thing. And yet the news was still trying to say, well, how do we find a real psychologist? There is no such thing. It's all a fraud. And the drought caused by the church to kick out people from that. You know, the whole West Coast drought, yeah, there were people who packed it up and left for the East. That's what the church was doing with the drought here in Utah. To force as many people as possible to leave. Get the hell out. We're purging Utah. Only the faithful who are bound by underwear can stay. And so increase crime because of all of these things. People have to survive, and so crime increases. You deny men sex, then they explode and rape. All to purge. It's all a trap. And increased murders, dear God. And then the laws that are being produced are to punish people. They're not to help anybody. See, the law about a person who invented an app that blurs out nudity, that's not helping anybody. You're just not wanting to teach your kids sex ed. That's it. Teach your kids sex ed. Why is that so hard? It was so hard for my dad. He couldn't do it. My mom didn't even know sex ed about boys, only about women, and only about how to get pregnant. I didn't get taught. I guess the stork from the Bugs Bunny Roadrunner show is the way that babies are born. There is so much idol worship going on, not just about having faith in idols and superstitious practices, like reading your scriptures to feel the Spirit, going to church to feel the Spirit, going to the temple to feel the Spirit, paying tithing to feel the Spirit, wearing your underwear to feel the Spirit. That's idolatry, idol worship. But likewise, if you fear an idol, I can't watch that R-rated movie. I'm going to lose the Spirit. I'm going to be cursed. I'm going to become evil and apostate. I can't drink Mountain Dew. I'm going to lose the Spirit. And so they trick you. And you leave the church because you want to drink beer for some reason. It smells awful. Who would want to drink that crap? But nonetheless, people do. And then they become drunks, and then they murder somebody in a drunken rage, or they rape somebody and blame it on the alcohol. And then they realize, oh, I'm going to prison. Oh, well, I guess the church was true. I should have obeyed. And then you come back to church. And you think you now know that the church is true. And you make a dumbass comment on my channel. And so, yeah, with the church not destroying itself, we're going into the election where we're already told we're toast. America will be destroyed. And every state will say, we're running our own country here. The state or the nation of Utah. And then Governor Cox will hand over the keys of government to Nelson. He will never die. The church will lead as the governing body. But we haven't purged the impure from Utah. And so what's going to happen? There's going to be a civil war in Utah because the 60% who do not identify as Mormon in the state of Utah are not going to allow Cox to hand over the government to the church. But the church will have access to the governor and thus the National Guard and a good number of the police. And so if we don't have National Guardsmen on our side and police on our side, it'll be a quick, easy victory for them. But as 60% are not, you're going to see a war here in Utah, in the streets. And that's what the Book of Mormon warns about, the fall of the great and abominable church. And so I guess that's how it's going to happen. Because they didn't nuke this whole Utah Valley from north to south so that they can then claim to go to Missouri and rebuild their kingdom with the multi-trillions of dollars they've been hoarding. And so this way they can just keep hoarding the money and keep collecting until the election as a result. First Nephi chapter 22. And the blood of the great and abominable church, which was the whore of all the earth, shall turn upon their own heads. For they shall war among themselves, and the sword of their own hands shall fall upon their own heads, and they shall be drunken with their own blood. And then nation shall war against thee, and the house of Israel shall be turned one against another, and they shall fall into the pit which they dig to ensnare the Mormons, those who are apostates, who know that the church is holding them hostage. And all that fight against the actual Zion, not the great and abominable church. Zion is not the great and abominable church. Why do Mormons assume that the great and abominable church is some other church that's not holding them hostage by the covenant underwear? Zion is the true church. Joseph Smith and me in the learning of the Jews. God. They didn't even murder me for today. What happened, Ray? I was supposed to be destroyed. Ray Montgomery threatened me. Today, I better repent. Quit going against the prophets. We're going against the Book of Mormon. Where's the threat, Ray? I'm not dead yet. Dear God. So yeah, it's supposed to tumble to the dust, and great shall be the fall of it. God. Going into extra innings. Bleeping and bleep, bleep, bleep. And so the Mormons will never suspect that the church has betrayed them. But that didn't happen. Alright. So I have to protect myself doing videos, because the church will not leave me alone. And when I started YouTube videos, I was doing translation showing how Joseph Smith was correct. And then I saw the solar eclipse in 2017 and was notifying Mormons and silenced. But conference weekend wears me out. As it always does. But to not have any fruit from it because of YouTube, dear God. So, put all that away now. If I just do videos going over the Jewish learning of scriptures, if I go over Hebrew and Egyptian translation for you, Mormons will still attack. They won't leave me alone. I'll still get death threats. I'll still be cyber terrorized. I will not be free until this church is destroyed. I will not be free until I can get to Zion. But Zion is the people, because it doesn't build itself. The people must build Zion. So the church news, they purposely cover up the errors that Nelson made, except for putting in Elias. But that's because it's quoted from the section 110, because it's an error in the text, but it's canon. It's Elishua. And so, yeah, you don't, as a Mormon, if you're just reading over it, you just see the references, and you go, oh, well, they quoted it, I don't need to go to it. And with Oaks, talk summaries from conference. Let's see if we can find the one on Oaks. Started with Nelson, as well they should have. It was a pre-recorded video, and it's going to be the last on YouTube, and they're not even near putting up individual videos yet. That is weird. The one video that everybody wants, and some other Mormon posted it in its place because the church is too slow. It's a pre-recorded video, and they're not covering Oaks. Interesting. There's no Oaks. Is this just for the one session? Sunday afternoon. Okay, so we need Sunday morning. Why didn't you have all of them? Where's talk summaries from Sunday morning? Sunday morning, there it is. Good God. See, they trick you. A beautiful little family. Little girls are drawing rather than listening to conference. Only the woman is looking at conference. The dad's not even paying attention to conference. It's not even conference. So yeah, President Oaks. We'll end with this. Show you how they're covering up. The Church of Jesus Christ is known as a church which emphasizes making covenants with God. See what they left out there? And then they're summarizing him rather than quoting him. He explained that covenants were foundational in the restoration of the gospel. Joseph Smith was not in bondage to Jesus, though there are some hilarious memes that are not based on reality, claiming that the angel threatened Joseph to practice polygamy. Dear God. A fundamental history of God's covenant promises are found in the Old Testament. Oh, I guess we need to take away our agency and put on the shackles of underwear. That's what happens when they leave things out. All you see is what they wrote. And you don't go beyond. You don't go to the original talk. Reaffirming in the preface, that was about you, the church, that went against Joseph. It was a prophecy. Understanding the role, purpose in building temples, temple worship, unique blessings associated with being bound to the Savior. Through covenants, ordinance of salvation and exaltation, this restored church administers. No keys, no authority. Amen. Long time ago. Persons who have been endowed in the holy temple are responsible to wear a temple garment beneath outer clothing that reminds them of sacred covenants and promised blessings. Affirm their role as disciples. No! You wear the temple underwear to be bound to Jesus through covenants. Purposely misleading you here, taking oaks out of context. Naughty, naughty. Who did this? Nobody's taking claim to doing this summary, huh? Naughty, naughty. Dear God. And husband. How are you so easily fooled, Mormons? You know, I understand you don't want to go through a faith crisis, so you got to protect yourself at all costs, and thus lie to yourself and lie to others and get mean and abusive, make death threats. But you have no claim on the church being true, because you're not using the learning of the Jews. You're automatically wrong. You've been lied to. So I don't know what to do from here on out. I don't know if I should just do a token video in the morning so that it's long enough that I can bathe and shave, and then get to work for the rest of the day. Or if I should just retire altogether and say bleep this and hope that the church leaves me alone. Not likely. So. Oh, dear God. Alrighty. I need a new chair. I just used WD-40 on the other day and it's already creaking again. And I need a new pad.